in the next generation, them actually making the argument that every culture is valuable and we should try and preserve and make an effort to keep them around. When in Enterprise, you're like, no, screw them. But we just got to naturally let them die of a horrible disease. It's cool. I was like, I don't agree with anything on these moral stances that you people are making. This is stupid.
See, and this kind of got... I don't know that you heard this part, but...
I did. I was trying to talk at the same time, and it seemed like you were talking over me, and I was like, dude, screw you, Jason. And then I realized it was going down. You couldn't hear me.
Gotcha. All right. So, I mean, that's my thing. If you're arguing that letting a species die is a moral thing to do, you're on the wrong side, in my opinion. So...
Yeah. And that's what's weird, because Star Trek is supposed to give you that sense of the possibilities of mankind in the future and sort of a positive outlook. And instead they're presenting you with these moral conundrums you don't believe in. Mm-hmm. And they're doing stuff where you sit there and go, oh, dude, these people suck. They're letting all these people die. This is moronic. And you go through it. It's just... Like, I like Star Trek for the individual stories and the cool space travel and all these other things, but then you get down to some of the moral messages and you're like, this is all stupid.
Right. Yeah.
But, go figure. On top of that, so I can finish it really quickly, what was I doing? Freaking heck. I played some Total War Warhammer. I got back into it and played quite a bit a couple days ago. I played through the Beastmen and beat it on very hard. Playing the Beastmen in Total War Warhammer is flippin' easy compared to playing the Empire.
Okay.
Because...
they maraud around, right?
Right,
they don't
you just wander around and trash everybody. And you have these stances where you go into sort of encampments and stuff where you sort of become invisible and you can hide. So you just sort of go around and raid stuff and then hide and then heal yourself up and then go around and raid. So you're basically this massive nuisance rather than sort of an established... Like, it's difficult. Probably, I would say the hardest group to play as is the Empire because you're surrounded by enemies perpetually. Right. And you're constantly at war, whereas with the Beastmen, I'm just sort of like, screw it, I'm going to kill these guys. Like, within the first 3-4 rounds, I've destroyed completely Talea in the south. And then I push into
That's
Bretonia.
Like Spain, right?
Yeah, essentially. It's the Warhammer version of Spain. I push into Bretonia, and I've destroyed Talea, Bretonia completely. It's just dead, barren wasteland and crags and chaos all over the place. Before chaos is even invaded at this point. And then I just start pushing into the Empire and just causing havoc, and there's not a darn thing they can do about it. And it's fun, but it's just so much easier. Like, playing on very hard on the Empire is like a struggle to some degree. Like, you're dealing with every Imperial faction trying to kill you as well as all the bad guys trying to kill you.
Right. And that's the one thing about the Warhammer universe. You can't be doing this internal warfare amongst yourselves because there's chaos right outside.
They're coming
waiting to destroy you.
Well, that's the stupid part. I keep going to, like, there's some dwarves in the mountains above me, and they're sort of an individual dwarf faction. And down the road, the dwarves can eventually assimilate them into their group. It's like Karak Nern and Karak Ziflin or something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, sweet, dwarves, I want you to be my allies. You'll sit in the back near the mountains. You can deal with whatever drama that happens back there. We won't cause you trouble. You won't cause us trouble. So I want to ally with them, and they won't. And I just don't. I don't want to fight with you guys. We can trade. We can share resources. We can do all these other things. Don't want to fight. Inevitably, you'll get one to sort of stay off, and the other one, usually in the very hard difficulties, will just get douchey and decide it's just going to start smashing through everything. And they can't take your cities, so they just show up and loot the crap out of everything. And it's like, I can't deal with the dwarves. I can't. There's just too many. And it just pisses you off because you're like, why are we fighting? Chaos is coming. It's going to kill us all.
And, yeah, usually the dwarves are more reasonable than that.
Yeah, you just can't. And it's sort of the randomness of the game.
Right.
The difficulty setting makes them more aggressive and more willing to sort of
screw everyone
be douchery all over the place. I think we're expecting some big DLC coming, like another faction potentially coming in October, and the
Okay.
rumors are we're either getting the Wood Elves
Hmm.
or we're getting Bretonia. Now Bretonia is already on the map; it just hasn't
Right, I
been
remember you
released
saying that.
yet. So you can't actually play as Bretonia unless you mod it so you can play as Bretonia. And I'm super psyched to play as Bretonia because I really want to play as them. They just haven't released that yet. It would make sense that they would release the Bretonia sooner, but everybody's basically saying, "Oh, well,
Especially if it's
Wood
already
Elves are
there.
coming." Yeah, my guess is they're going to be a free DLC when they finally sort of balanced out how Bretonia is going to work. I'm
Hmm.
super psyched to play as the Wood Elves, but I have no idea what they would do with their time because the only thing the Wood Elves are interested in is controlling that one forest section, and that's it.
Right.
They could care less of what happens in the rest of the world. And I suppose if I built up and became like a support group where I'm trying to keep chaos out of things, that'd be one thing. But I don't see what motivation I would have to do anything in that game. It's like my one territory, and that's it.
Yeah, as long as everybody stays out of it, I'm good.
I suppose
Yeah,
they could let them control like forest territories or something.
maybe. That does seem like a weird one to add. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because like you could basically fight stuff around you, but after that, it's like there's not much to do.
it's not like you're going to go out and take over the human settlements.
Yeah, why would you? Who cares?
Yeah.
But go figure. That's pretty much for me, despite the constant technical issues within this podcast. Yada yada yada.
Well, let's go ahead and go into the video games coming out this week then, and hopefully we can get through them.
Cross our fingers we get through this and it becomes somewhat coherent.
Yeah, so a lot of these are coming out tomorrow. And we have
Part B.
a couple coming out the 29th and one coming out the 30th, and we'll get into those ones when we get there. But for the most part, most of the games are coming out tomorrow. The first one on our list is Darkest Dungeon. Now, yes, this one has come out before, but it's coming out
PC,
now.
yeah.
What was that?
On PC, yeah.
Yes, on PC. This one's coming out now for PS4 and Vita, so you'll be able to
This
play it
could
on.
be a cool Vita game.
Yes, it could. If you've never taken a look at this game, I really urge you to do so. It's got an interesting play style, interesting look, and quite an interesting story. Basically, you have a group of adventurers that you're taking them down into dungeons and things, and you as you take them down into the dungeon, you're doing the typical RPG things where you're leveling up your heroes, you're giving them better weapons and armor and all that stuff. They have the ability to go insane while they're going through the dungeon.
Yeah,
so you have
keeping their
to.
sanity levels up is actually somewhat of a struggle.
So yeah, you have to be aware that not only are you having to heal them, heal their bodies as they're going through these encounters, but you have to be aware of their mental state because they could just snap and start killing their allies, go berserk and kill. Do nothing. They just shut down completely. But they have a variety of archetypes that you can recruit.
Classes and enemies and dungeons to delve into.
And you'll notice that this is a 2D side-scroller type look.
It plays different than anything I've played before.
Yeah. And you actually have characters who not only are like healers, where they're there to make sure that you can keep going through the dungeon and keep your health up, but you have people who can affect the morale of your troop and can make it so that they don't wig out and start killing people they shouldn't. Yeah. And then you have the town. You go back to town, and there are diversions in the town that can alleviate.
You came over, if I recall,
yeah,
and played a lot of it.
Yeah, I did, and it was a lot of fun.
It's a really fun game. One thing I would say is they tried to make it a lot more difficult, and they ran into a problem where it became too hard. Because they had people who sort of knew the system and knew how to game it, so they was making it really easy for them. I never knew how to game the system, otherwise I would have tried. Because it's just too difficult for me. Maybe I'm just not playing it right. But they had
Maybe.
people who were just making it a little bit too easy for themselves, and then so they added a lot of stuff like different status effects, and that the bodies stay in the ground, so you have to get through the bodies before they move. And it became really problematic, and people were like, "Oh, it's too hard." So they had to change some of it. I haven't gotten back to it recently, but it's one of those games I always have an itch to play for a bit because it's just fun, and maybe I'll play a bunch come October for thematic reasons.
So let's move on. So, like I said, Darkest Dungeon, it's already been out, but if you want to move to PS4 or you haven't played it and you want it on Vita.
I got a pre-release, if I recall. Yeah. Like, it basically, my purchasing it helped fund it for everybody else.
Right. So the next one is FIFA 17. Not really anything, in my opinion, that's...
Looks like a story mode exists in it.
There is a story mode. You have this. I'm not sure how much of the story mode is there, but you play these characters.
There's voice actors. There's motion capture. There's trying to do your guy in this world of high pressure and trying to money and like all these different things. Like the story for. It looks dramatic. I have no idea what's going on, but it's like, oh my gosh, things are happening. How do I deal with this?
NBA whatever done by Spike Lee.
yeah, which is such a weird, dramatic story about like people from your hard past keeping you down and gaming, like stealing money from you. We will see where this FIFA game goes. I saw somebody play the new NBA game, and there is a story to that as well.
See,
Interestingly enough, they started you out as your first game is your high school game, and then you got to pick a college team to go to, and so you sort of pick your favorite college team, and then you play them for like 5-6 games, and eventually you sort of go into the draft. And depending on how well you play, depends on how like high you are in the draft, if I recall. And so It actually does play somewhat of a career of trying to be a player. And that would be interesting if it sort of follows a similar theme in this new FIFA game.
And I think that might be kind of what it's going to do. It's going to have that theme and everything where you have your... Because it looks like it's, it starts out where you're a kid and you go on to a more professional team at the end. But at the same time, it's like, do we really need... this is a soccer game. Do we really need a story mode?
It's the only thing I think they can add that actually makes it more interesting now. Why it motivates you to get the next game every year.
And that could be it. Because I don't see the rules of soccer changing very much.
Yeah, otherwise it's just updated rosters and stats and what have you.
Yeah.
You notice it's built in the Frostbite engine.
Yes.
If you recall, what the Frostbite engine was originally built for was Battlefield games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So interestingly enough, it looks good.
Yeah.
It's a good look.
To move on, we have Forza Horizon 3. Oh, so FIFA 17.
That so douchey Italian, but anyway.
It is. So FIFA 17, it's Xbox One, PS4, PS3, 360, and PC. Forza Horizon is coming out on Xbox One and PC. I played Forza Horizon
2 or whatever.
Whichever one they just gave out for the free one. I'm not really big on it. I don't know.
Oh, on 360?
On 360, yeah. That they gave out as part of the Games for Gold.
I don't know. I have to get a hold, because sometimes these racing games get really anal about how they control, whether or not it's accurate to real vehicles and that sort of thing. And then other times they sort of modify it to make it fun to control rather than super accurate as far as the vehicles control. I have to actually get my hands on a racing game to tell you whether or not it feels fun for me, because I think different people have different preferences when it comes to how these games control, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I guess my thing is that that it's maybe too real to life and it just doesn't seem fun.
Yeah, and that might be the case. I've never touched it before, so
yeah.
Anyway, that game that Japan makes, it's always like the most uber realistic racing game you'll ever touch, and every time they come out with it sells out like crazy.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that one too. Didn't really like it.
Yeah. See, that's the problem though. They get so anal about the controls, and these different vehicles have different handling and how they move, and it's so precise and well done that part of me thinks to actually make it fun, you would have to get a steering wheel.
Yeah, I think that might help if I had pedals and a
Otherwise,
steering wheel.
with the controller, it just doesn't feel great, and maybe it's because of the realism where you're just like, I would suck as a race car driver.
Yeah. See, the thing is that the game is beautiful. I have to say that the trailer here for Forza Horizon 3 and just playing Forza Horizon, they look really, really good. They do. They just look really beautiful. The game, the cars, the scenery, everything. They did a really good job on it. But it's once again, it's that there's too much realism in the game that it just doesn't feel fun. So yeah.
I hear you.
The next one, Shantae, and the Pirate's Curse. This is coming out for 3DS. It's already been out for a while. You can get this on Steam, Wii U, Xbox One, evidently Fire TV, but it's coming out for 3DS.
I've seen a lot of this game, actually.
Yeah, and it looks really good. I've been intrigued by this game. It's one of those throwbacks to the
Way Forward. What did they keep talking?
It's one of the ones where you're looking at it and it's like it just reminds you a lot of the early games, but for Nintendo and stuff. But they've at the same time they've got like I said, they've got the updated power of the new engines and stuff to work with.
Way Forward has a history of making a lot of Game Boy Advanced, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance games. I know there's a game they made that was actually fairly well known recently that got a lot of attention. Gosh, I can't think of it though. I'm looking at their list. Way Forward.
I'm not sure. There's actually
it's a good looking game though.
Yeah, it is. The next one is actually another game in this same series. And it's the next one on the list, Shantae Half Genie Hero. That one's coming out for Xbox One, PS4, Wii U, Vita, and PC tomorrow.
Another game in the whole Shantae universe?
Yeah. So this one's Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and the next one is Half Genie Hero, and there you go, you've got it queued up already. So I'm
on top of it.
Yeah. It's same kind of play, it looks like, but a new story, a little
bit of a 2.5D feel to it.
Yeah, they've got kind of an updated feel, but it still looks pretty good.
It looks like a fun platformer. It reminds me, not just aesthetically, but how it controls and sort of the funness of it. Reminds me a little bit of maybe like a Aladdin. During the Genesis days, Super Nintendo and stuff.
Right.
A little bit like, I don't know.
And I don't know.
It's got a sort of platformy Aladdin feel to it.
And it looks like they've got more characters. I don't know if there are more playable characters in the Pirate's Curse one, but it looks like you can play as an elephant, as a mermaid, as a spider thingy.
Maybe she transforms into those. She is a genie.
Maybe, and then that could be it. But yeah, this one as well. I mean, it looks like this one's gonna be a lot of fun as well. Way Forward seems to have hit on a good formula here.
Yeah, if you're looking for a fun platformer, these games look like they're going to be right up your alley. Kind of booby cartoony ladies, though.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those. They've gone a little bit overboard with the skin, but yeah, it sells. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. So to move on, we have Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. This is coming out for 3DS. This is another Sonic game.
Sort of in the Sonic Boom franchise.
Yeah. the characters, I don't know if it's just the artwork or what, but they look really weird. I don't know if that's the
What do you
same kind of.
mean? The CGI animation or just the actual in-game character stuff?
Well, I maybe
The
I
character
don't know.
designs? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean,
Because the
look at
Sonic game
Sonic.
character designs were different. They redesigned Sonic. They made him sort of thin and sort of sleek and
Weird.
stuff. And the original Sonic character kind of had that tummy,
Uh
and he had the
Yeah.
shorter little legs. This time he's like longer, and he has a scarf.
huh. I do like the dual screen stuff that they've got going here, where
If you
you're
can
like,
utilize the DS, then awesome.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you should.
but some of the boss fights, it looks like there's boss fights going on both screens at the same time, which looks really cool. Like I said, it looks Sonic. They just look kind of weird, but at the same time, this game does look fun.
You know, there's an interesting game mechanic that they seem to be using in this game that seems really like it. If it was done right, it could be really fun, like a blast to play. And that is on that second screen in the bottom where you're doing stuff and running around. It looks like you can select different characters to sort of jump in, and they have different powers and they can
Yeah.
do different things. And if that's the case, then that can make for very interesting boss fights where you have Sonic and you're doing stuff, and then you have to tag in Tails for a bit, and then maybe tag in Sonic again, and then maybe bring somebody else out. Almost like a Mega Man sort of switching through your powers thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm giving it a lot of credit not having touched it, but that could be quite interesting as a gameplay mechanic.
Now, just looking at this, what I can find on the site, it looks like it's an or thing. So yeah, it's like you don't necessarily have to switch, but you can if you want.
I would like the idea that you would
But-
switch because one
Yeah.
would be more beneficial for different things, or
Right.
like Sonic
Right.
doesn't do as much damage against this, but if you bring in the gal with the hammer, then she does. Amy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You have Knuckles, Amy, Styx, and Sonic, and of course the bad guy is Dr. Eggman. So
Tails, I assume, as well.
Tails. Yes. Sorry, that was the other one. Tails is in there as well. Whose real name is Miles.
Miles Prowler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Prower or something like that.
Yeah.
It's cat sounding.
So the next one on the list is XCOM 2. This was coming out for Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah, this has been on PC for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. And this is...
Firaxis Games, remember when they used to make stuff? You know what Firaxis used to make?
I couldn't tell you.
SimCity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So XCOM 2, it's an extension of... or it's a continuation of XCOM.
You know,
Again...
I don't know if you're going to do much of the plot, but you know what's interesting about the plot for XCOM 2?
What's that?
So, XCOM 2 assumes that you failed at XCOM 1.
That's right.
Like, you blew it, and aliens took over, and it's super controlling, and they're scanning everybody, and you have to be sort of like... And they're sort of integrated where there are these soldiers that walk around, they're partially human with, like, alien DNA, and into them to sort of control them, and you become sort of a resistance force rather than a sort of the force trying to keep the aliens off the planet, as opposed to an XCOM 1 where you're dealing with a potential alien invasion. And what makes it even more interesting is apparently XCOM 2 is ridiculously hard compared to XCOM 1, and XCOM 1 was hard. Apparently XCOM 2 is just retarded hard. like not only did you lose the first one, but it sucks now. Like, it's bad. Like, your efforts in the first one meant nothing, because in the second one the aliens took over, and now it's like Nazi utopia. It reminds me almost aesthetically of the that big shooter that existed for Sony for a while that they thought was going to be the Halo killer. Anyway, it looks like those space Nazis or whatever. Like, oh, we're controlling everything and we're watching everything. Like Half-Life 2, if you recall, with
Right.
the Combine, where they're keeping track of everybody.
Right.
The
Yeah, I
oppressive
remember.
sort of government regime. The other game's name will come to me.
But yeah, this is that kind of thing. It's a squad-based shooter, so you have your squad and everything. You have the ability to with DLC, and I don't know if this is going to be there for the PS4 and Xbox One, but you have the ability to have elite squadrons. But yeah, that's exactly what the story is. It's you are freedom fighters trying to expose the alien menace. For what it really is to the rest of the populace, who at this point they like the aliens because the aliens are, cleaning up the cities and giving them technology and stuff. But it's always with that undercurrent of there is a menace at this point.
You know what's interesting? I don't know if it's interesting. Gosh, I was going to interrupt and then it escaped me all of a sudden. Go ahead, it'll come to me.
Okay, so that's it for the 27th. On the 29th, we have Nebula Online.
Skipping to Nebula Online.
This is coming out for PC, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. They're billing it as a cross-platform MMORPG in space.
Okay.
So I don't know how.
Xbox One PC cross-platform or?
No, PC, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android.
Cross-platform, my eye.
Yeah.
They're just giving Linux and Mac the ability to to play it rather than this is really cross-platform.
Well, they're gonna. It's not just that. It's like you get on and you play it, and it doesn't matter what other guy
but you
is.
see my point.
But yeah. I mean, it's still
other essentially personal computers are able to play. I don't consider
exactly.
it cross-platform.
And I don't know how it's going to work on iOS and Android because I don't know. They just have
very limited, I assume.
Yeah.
Well, see,
It
that's
may
the
be that
danger
you can.
of having a game that you can play on PC as well as Android is it's got to be fairly bare bones, which means PC people would probably not be super into it.
Right.
And it might be super fun for an Android user, but when it comes to PC, it's like it's sort of not as expansive, and there's not as much to do. And you see my point?
Oh yeah, I get
The
your
difference
point.
in gaming platforms. It might work for what might work for Android won't work for PC. Is this
right? Exactly. But yeah, it still looks rather good for what it is.
Yeah, you gotta love space backgrounds and
yeah. There's 3 races: humans, Borgazans, and Cryptozids.
You always gotta love the made-up stupid alien species.
Yeah. But
let me guess, one has big head and weird eyes, and the other one looks like Savage or something. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, well, Borgazans look kind of like
because there's usually like an intelligent one, and then there's a sort of like aggressive savage one.
Yeah,
that's usually how they go. There's usually like an advanced, technological, intelligent alien species, and then there's the savage.
The humans, which are kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
and then the one race that's basically insects in space. And
I've played enough space games to know that there are archetypes you see all the time. There's always an advanced one. There's always the aggressive one.
But yeah, they're touting a lot of things like the economy controlled by the players, which is a bad idea. You build your own mining space stations. You can create spaceships with a module system so that you can have your own ships that are unique. Race leader elections, I have no idea how that's going to work. One world for all players.
Race leader, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, real-time global space fights. There's PvP. There's PvE. Yeah. So, if you're looking for a space sim that you might want to take a look at this. And once again, Rhett is correct. We have the humans, which are kind of middle of the road. You have the ones that look like highly advanced alien species, and then the ones that look kind of like the Zerg. So bio ships and stuff like that. So,
Yep.
but still, it does look good for what it is.
Yep.
Maybe not too much of a story there. The next one we have is called Unloved. This one is for PC. This may be familiar to a number of people because this is this game is based on the Doom 2 mod called Unloved.
Never played it.
Yeah, I'd never played this either, but I know that...
So they basically took the Doom 2 mod and sort of went full blown and then released it as a game?
Yep.
I suppose the Doom 2 mod Unloved was fairly popular?
Oh yeah, it sounds like it was incredibly popular. But they've kind of given it... I don't know. It does look a lot different from Doom, but it still looks good. It's like they took the Doom 2 mod Unloved and put it now in the Unreal 4 engine, or the Unreal Engine 4.
Right,
so
now you can look up and down.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got more, but it does look like it's still multiplayer and stuff, and you've got different weapons and things, and you can mod your weapons. You can play with up to 4 other people. Yeah.
It looks
So
like 3 guys worked on this game.
Yeah.
But I bet a lot of the groundwork, level design, how things should look, some of the assets and stuff they still had from the mod that they had created all those years ago that was able to carry over
Most likely.
somewhat. Yeah.
But it does look,
Obviously,
as you
new
can see,
models
it does
had to be
look
built,
different from Doom 2 in a
Right,
lot of
new,
ways.
New models had to be built, but I guarantee you some of the assets, like I don't know, when they do that really detailed map over thing that's supposed to cover a model,
Skin.
Yeah, the skin or whatever, the different skins that they're able to use, not just for the characters but for the walls, and I guarantee you those are some things that they were able to reuse.
Right. Yeah, and they still have the super shotgun.
Sweet.
I just noticed somebody picking it up. So the thing is that just looking at this, it does look pretty good for what it is. It
does look
environment
like a mod.
And yeah, it does. But the environment and the monsters and stuff look like they spent a lot of time with them and things. But when you notice the other players look really stupid.
There are other players?
Yeah. You remember those?
Are they
those
the fat ones?
No. It's you know those. Did you see those bright colored ones that looked really out of place?
No.
Okay, so it just started over. You should see them eventually. There's these really
wearing
bright
coats or whatever.
Yeah, it's like they don't fit in because they like stand out really, really badly. Let's see. There's one, I think, supposed to be coming up soon, I think.
I mean, we don't have to spend time on this, but theoretically you do play with other people and stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that the environments, when you go like gritty, dirty, dark, they all just start to look the same is the problem.
Right.
Which is a problem you have with horror games in general. And then you have enemies, but if you don't make them different enough, they all start to look like the same stupid creature that you blow up and just a pile of goo.
Right. And
so it's hard to say, but I don't want to dump on the game not having played it, but still.
Yeah. So that's it for the 29th. And we have September 30th. This one is a 3DS game. It's called Yokai Watch 2.
This is big in Japan.
Yeah. Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. There's actually 2 games in this series coming out. One is Yokai Watch 2 Bony Spirits, and the other is Yokai Watch 2 Fleshy Souls. I'm not sure of the difference between the 2 games, but just looking at the game, it's definitely targeted towards a younger audience.
Or Japanese, because they like those younger cutesy games.
Yeah.
It's a mobile game, if I recall.
At the same time, you can like play and trade with your friends and all sorts of stuff like that. But at the same time, what was it that I was going to say about it? I don't remember. Oh, that's what it is. just looking at the trailers and stuff, and just looking at the descriptions of the game, this totally strikes me as a Pokemon knockoff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
So,
it has its own feel to it and own fun little thing, but definitely the catching creatures and collecting and trading, and
yep.
that's definitely a Pokemon sort of thing.
Hmm. So, I really don't know anything really about Yokai Watch other than what I found here.
I know it's mobile. I know it's really big in Japan. I know the first one was fairly popular. They had a really goofy. If you look up a Yokai Watch trailer, there was one where they were in an elevator or something, and it looked really weird. Like they've had some really weird like live action trailers, if I recall, in the past that are just goofy looking. Cutesy characters. It basically JRPG run around catch stuff. Looks like ghosts and monsters and that sort of thing. I've never played it before, but it actually does look like it's got the 3D models and bigger environment. Well, not bigger environment, but more colorful and a bunch of different things. So if you're looking for something that's not Pokemon but kind of Pokemon related, this might be your game.
Yeah, and it looks like, and I could be wrong about this, but like Yokai Watch Bony Spirits happens in modern day, and Yokai Watch Fleshy Souls happens in the past. And it's kind of funny. I was watching the trailer.
If I recall, not to interrupt you,
no, go ahead.
the creatures and stuff are apparently kind of Japanese mythology related.
Yeah.
So they're like creatures of like the trees and the forests and ghosts and that sort of. So
yokai was a kind of a catch-all term for spirit creatures.
Yeah, because Japan has definitely got the spirit of the forest and the in the river and that sort. So it definitely has its own sort of thing going for it. At least something more established than random monsters that we made up that kind of look racist.
Right.
Pokemon, I'm talking to you.
But so you have it was kind of funny. Like I said, I was watching the trailer, and at one point they're like, discover the secret of the Yokai Watch and travel back in the past to when they were first when they were first founded, kind of thing. And it's like, well, that sounds kind of cool. And they're like, it's 60 years ago. I'm like, wait, what? These spirits have been around for thousands of years, and it only was 60 years ago that you founded this society or this team that goes around and keeps them under control. Okay.
if you want a good show that feels more closer to the Japanese concept of spirits and stuff, see Spirited Away.
Spirited Away is awesome.
It does it fairly well, where they have those different sort of spirits and demons and Adam Savage from the
Wonder Years.
No.
Oh.
The Mythbusters.
Oh, him. That was Fred Savage is the Wonder Years.
Yeah, he's really. I was like, no, Wonder Years. He's really into nerdy stuff, and he's been to Comic-Con a few times and whatnot.
Right.
So he's a super nerd and whatnot. I'm not necessarily a big fan of his, but he did something interesting in relation to Spirited Away, where he dressed up as the no-face creature from Spirited Away, the big black outfit with the white face.
Right.
And he thought it would be, because usually when he dresses up and goes to Comic-Con, he dresses in a full-blown suit to try and sort of walk around and nobody recognizes him. And that's happened multiple times with other actors as well, who dress up as something and then walk around so that they can actually be a part of Comic-Con but not have to show their faces. Right. So he dressed up as the no-face character and was walking around Comic-Con and sort of talking to people and stuff. And he had this interesting thing he would do where he would carry these little chocolate gold coins, and if you're calling the show, he would give people money.
Right.
Sort of like he realized people want money, so he would give them money. And he walked around, and he said it was interesting because he would hand these little gold coins to actual Japanese people who were at the Comic-Con, and they would grab his hand and give the coin back to him. And he realized it was something interesting, that they understood the whole spirit thing, and that in the show him giving the gold coins doesn't work out for you. It's almost like a curse to be given the gold coins because you sort of desire more and more. And so they decide that they literally, in a very almost like, I don't know, full-blown play sort of like meaningful exchange, that they would refuse to take the coins because of the nature of the character in the show, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That is cool. So that's it for the games coming out this week. Hopefully there was something there that you found interesting and that you might want to take a look at. Anything?
Darkest Dungeon looks great. Shantae and the whatever, there are 2 games there, look pretty good.
Yep.
XCOM's a good game. The rest are sort of up in the air based upon your preference and stuff you're into.
Yep. So if we didn't cover something or we covered something and you think that we gave it the short shrift, let us know at the Distracted Gamers at gmail.com or at DG Podcast on Twitter, and we'll totally read your comments. So
we try to. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're email us. I think Google Plus and all these other different
we're all
places
over the place.
We don't contact people on. We like to talk to the people that listen to the podcast, and even if you hate it or disagree with us, send us something and we'll roll our eyes and read about it. We're doing this because it's fun for us, and if you don't like it, then whatever, screw off. But if you do enjoy it, we appreciate it, and we like chatting with you guys when you do.
Yep, so that's it for the podcast tonight, and we're out of here because it might fail again.
Let's run out of here kicking and screaming before stuff falls apart. Running to the outro song and play.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's 2 most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter @DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.